Hello, good morning, everyone. We welcome you to the webinar on financing clean tech SMEs in India, opportunities and challenges, hosted by Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation and co-hosted by South Pole and Climate Policy Initiative. My name is Webher. I work as a Senior Manager Climate Finance at South Pole. I, along with my colleagues from SDC and CPI, would present this webinar. Some housekeeping rules before we get in. As all attendees, you are all on mute at the moment, but if you do have a comment or question, please use the question function in your control panel. We will try and address them on the chat and also take up most asked questions towards the end of the webinar. If you have any technical difficulties, please contact us directly. This webinar will be recorded and sent to you within the next week. Last but not the least, as some of us are broadcasting and joining from home, so please bear with us in case there are any technical hiccups. So let me start by quickly introducing you to my fellow colleagues who would be co-presenting this webinar alongside me. Jonathan, who is head of Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation in India. Dhruba, who is the India Director for Climate Policy Initiative, India. Vijay Nirmal, who is Associate Director Climate Finance for Climate Policy Initiative, India. Also, I would like to welcome all our guest speakers and panelists, and special thanks to Mr. Sudhendra Jyoti Sinha, who is an advisor at Niti Aayog, Government of India, for joining us, and all other panelists, Mr. Anurag Mishra, who is Senior Clean Energy Specialist at USAID, Ms. Ekta Mehra, Senior Sector Specialist at KfW Development Bank, and Mr. Hormas Pithawala, who is Deputy Vice President at Tata Cleantech Capital Limited. We welcome all the panelists and speakers to the webinar. So this is our agenda for the next hour. We'll start with the introductory remarks, after which we would discuss key findings of the feasibility study. This would be followed by a keynote speech and a panel discussion. Now I would like to invite Jonathan for the introductory remarks. Over to you, Jonathan.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jonathan, we can hear you.
Thank you. Mr. Sudhendra Sinha, Mr. Anurag Mishra, Mrs. Ekta Mehra, Mr. Hormas Pithawala, dear colleagues and participants, I'm honored to deliver this introductory speech to the webinar. Climate change is a global issue requiring collective action from all of us, big and small, Switzerland as well as India. India is among the largest and growing emitters of greenhouse gases, almost 2/3 of which come from the energy sector. The recent commitment of the government of India to achieve net zero by 2070 will require decarbonization of the energy and transport sector in particular. And for this, we will need at least two things. First, we need some innovative solutions. We need innovative clean tech in order to transform the transport and energy sector. This will be driven by startups and micro, small and medium-sized enterprises that will drive the commercialization of clean tech solutions in regional and global markets. And second, we need investments to ensure that these solutions can be developed, can reach the market, can reach scale and have an impact. According to estimations, a cumulative investment of $10.1 trillion by 2030 will be required. Hence, a conducive environment supported by policies and interventions is necessary to drive financing to new and innovative technologies in the sector. However, there is a dearth of financing for clean tech ventures, which often restricts their scale-up. This barrier is not only in India, but tends to be global due to the nature of the clean tech sector, the lack of dedicated funding, and lack of expertise of lending institutions. And in order to overcome this, the government of Switzerland launched an innovative solution. A technology fund which issues loan guarantees to lower the hurdle for innovative clean tech companies to get the necessary financing in place. And since 2015, the fund has been successful in leveraging financing of 180 million Swiss francs with a minimal default rate of 5 to 6%, and it has enabled 4 million tons of CO2 equivalent greenhouse gas emissions reduction by providing financing to 110 clean tech ventures. Please keep scaling in mind. We are talking about Switzerland, a country whose population is only half the size of Delhi. But what is important here is the mechanism, is the experience, is the potential of this solution. And as part of the Indo-Swiss cooperation, to enable transfer of the Swiss success story, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, SDC, commissioned a study with the support of the organization South Pole and the Climate Policy Initiative. The study assessed the feasibility of establishing a credit guarantee instrument to support financing Indian cleantech SMEs. What is important is what we try to achieve. This feasibility study would act as an initial groundwork for government institutions and funding agencies to develop an effective credit guarantee instrument. This webinar will disseminate the feasibility study findings and elaborate on the key barriers faced by cleantech SMEs in India in mobilizing finance, as well as recommend design of a potential guarantee instrument to overcome these barriers. I hope this webinar will be informative and will inspire organizations to take the learning to the next level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan, for setting the context and also briefing about the study. So we had presented this study to NITI Aayog. So, and we have already presented the findings to our keynote speaker, Mr. Sudhendu Sinha. So I will now request Mr. Sinha to share his thoughts on the study and share the Government of India's initiative and vision for this sector. Sudhendu, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Vaibhav. Thank you, Jonathan, for setting the context. So in the recently COP26, as we all know, we have set a very, very ambitious target of achieving net zero by 2070. Now, this requires that significant investments have to go in innovative technologies to achieve carbon emission reduction by 1 billion ton by 2030. The Government of India has announced a slew of initiatives and schemes to achieve these commitments. Example, setting up National Mission on Transformative Mobility and Battery Storage, our own national flagship program, FAME2, the second version of it, faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles, PLI scheme for battery and automobile, and there is another PLI scheme for automobile components. Then there is National Hydrogen Mission. Now, the recent study from NITI Aayog estimates that decarbonization of energy and transport sector can lead to significant savings through adoption of electric vehicles, renewable energy, energy storage, efficiency, and flexibility. This would require significant investment in clean technologies and will present opportunity to our clean tech ventures to become leaders in the sunrise sector, which is embracing our Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-dependent India. But financing is a major challenge, which is one of the major barriers for scaling up these clean tech SMEs, as it has been outlined in the study done by South Pole in such a rigorous way. Now, NITI Aayog is India's apex public policy think tank and is actively working to address such barriers and challenges towards developing these sectors. We are working with the World Bank, we are working with a number of national, bilateral and multilateral agencies. We are working with the World Bank to enable financing for e-mobility sector through introduction of first loss risk sharing instrument. At the same time, we also have launched e-Amrit, e-Sawari, Shuni campaign to create that general level of awareness and a platform to share the enable decarbonization of the transport sector. Now, India is working towards clean tech industry with great efforts, enthusiasm, and investments. We are formulating various regulations so that companies can easily purchase renewable energy electricity from the state distributors, and with the high demand for clean power to boost energy security and reduction of pollution, India is becoming more developed in the field of clean technology. And that is the reason, that is precisely the reason why some of the biggest environmental friendly investors, they are approaching us, they are approaching India clean tech industry with such a great interest. Now, it can easily be concluded that the clean tech industry of India has earned enormous growth and is expected to achieve more advanced technology and results in all aspects of environment. Now, I've gone through the issues that has been raised by South Pole, the points of mention that they have made, and I strongly believe, this is my understanding, that study conducted by the South Pole and Climate Policy Initiative will support, and which is with the support from the Swiss agency, it would lay a very, very strong foundation, a robust platform to explore development of an effective credit guarantee mechanism, enabling much needed financing for the clean tech SMEs in India. They need it. They need it in a big, big way. I congratulate the team of South Pole and the Climate Policy Initiative, or each of the members there, once again for their insight work, and we assure our support to facilitate any discussion on this matter. We are right there by your side with key ministries in case you want to engage yourself into, with the multiple departments of government of India, if you want us to facilitate those sorts of engagement. With this, all my best wishes to the participants, those who are here today, and whatever learning outcomes are there. However, my request to you would be, and to you, Jonathan, also, that please let us know, because that is we always are kind of in a learning mode. We are ready to recalibrate our policies and kind of take that as a facilitation with the other ministries. So thank you, and good time ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhendu sir. We appreciate you taking this time out for the webinar, and we look forward to further engage with you in near future towards developing these inroads with the ministries. Now I'll go. Now me and Vijay would go and present the findings of the study, the key findings of the study. And so to start with, as rightly pointed out by Mr. Sinha, India requires an additional investment of around 10.1 trillion by 2030 to achieve its 2070 net zero ambition. Majority of this investment would go towards developing low carbon technologies and solutions, which would decarbonize our energy and transport sector and its value chain. This value chain, along with the waste management, is collectively referred as clean tech in this study. A conducive local clean tech sector driven by SMEs, small and medium enterprises, is very important towards India's climate and sustainable development ambitions. But there is a key challenge. A study conducted by South Pole and ETH Zurich outlines there's a visible dearth of financing, which most of these Indian clean tech ventures face at growth stage. That is the stage between Series C and Series D funding, where they need the financing most to scale up. This often restricts them to scale up, and in some cases even prematurely wind up, hence becoming a major barrier towards the sectoral development as well as towards India's clean energy ambitions. Why this is due to constraints at both demand and supply side of debt financing. If we look at demand side, these ventures have high technology risk due to the inherent nature of the product they are in. There are long returns and gestation period, and generally they do not have any past financing records or assets which they can provide for collateral or for securitization, which leads to making them non-suitable for debt financing, as they do not fit within the stringent conditions at supply side of banks and financial institutions. And often it is seen that these financiers are not able to understand these innovative technologies and business models to appraise these projects. This problem is not only restricted to India, but it is a rather global issue due to the nature of the clean tech sector. But innovative financing instruments like guarantees can help overcome this barrier. Swiss Tech Fund is one such success story, which Jonathan also talked about. The fund is successfully supporting funding to the sector in Switzerland since 2015. The Tech Fund, or the Swiss Technology Fund, is sponsored by Swiss government, and it provides loan guarantees to partner lenders to provide debt financing to clean tech SMEs. The two salient feature of this structure, which makes it different from other credit guarantee structures, are that there's a specialized agency for due diligence, overcoming the low capacity of banks to evaluate these new models, and there's a mandatory co-financing by private investor, which makes this fund lever 20 or 30 times. So through our feasibility study, we looked at potential alternatives for replicating this Swiss success case to India. We had extensive stakeholder consultations, and we assessed the policy and regulatory requirements for replicating this success story in the Indian context. On this note, I'd like to invite my colleague Vijay Nirmal from Climate Policy Initiative to discuss the key takeaways from the study and potential structures to set up a dedicated credit guarantee facility. Over to you, Vijay.
Yeah, thanks, Vaibhav. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this webinar. I'm Vijay Nirmal from Climate Policy Initiative. As part of the study, we've carried out a detailed analysis of the existing policy and regulatory framework for issuance of guarantees in India, issuance of guarantees by banks, by NBFCs, by entities set up under a special act, as well as trusts. We've also carried out a detailed analysis of the existing credit guarantee mechanisms in India, including Credit Guarantee Trust for Micro and Small Enterprises, CGT-MSE, joint initiative of SIDBI and GOI. We also looked at the multiple funds being managed by NCGTC, partial risk sharing facility for energy efficiency, USAID's DCA framework, OPIC's local currency guarantee structure, amongst other mechanisms. So our analysis was more to understand what worked well for these mechanisms and what are the key learnings that we could actually incorporate in our design of the instrument. So this analysis is part of our report. We've also carried out detailed stakeholder consultations with lenders, potential funders of risk capital, as well as the clean tech entities. And some of the key learnings or key takeaways from those consultations are presented in this slide. Almost all the stakeholders have confirmed the need for a credit guarantee instrument, primarily for enabling capital into underserved clean tech SME segment, need for a credit guarantee to address the perceived risk within this space, because there is a perceived risk involved within this segment due to lack of payment track record or lack of credit history, which is where a credit guarantee instrument could play a key role in providing comfort to the lenders. Also, a need for a credit guarantee instrument to enable collateral-free lending and encourage cash flow based or asset-based financing. We also understood that while some of these guarantee mechanisms have been successful, there are certain issues related to the overall process, be it in terms of due diligence of applications or the timelines involved in release of funds, etc., which is where we understood that there's a need for a third-party independent technical consultant who could assist the fund in doing a thorough due diligence of applications and also helping in verifying the claims submitted by the banks and enabling a faster resolution of the process and release of funds as well. We've also discussed with several potential funders who could capitalize the fund with risk capital based on which the fund could provide guarantees to the lending institutions. We've also sought inputs from the stakeholders, inputs primarily related to the guarantee coverage, the extent of first loss coverage, or should it also include partial credit guarantee? What are the timelines involved? What is the process for raising a guarantee claim, for release of funds, and the overall technical, operational, and governance mechanisms for this instrument. So based on these inputs, we've incorporated the learnings into our design instruments, and the two structures that we are recommending are presented on this slide. The one on the left side is a credit guarantee fund under a trust mechanism, where we have precedent in the form of CGT-MSE as well as NCGTC. So under this structure, we have a trust incorporated under the Indian Trust Act by a financial institution. And the same financial institution could also play the role of a facility manager. The facility manager's role is to oversee the entire operations of the mechanism, including doing a due diligence on the application submitted by the lenders, entering into guarantee execution arrangements with the lenders, processing the claims, as well as release of funds. Then we have member lending institutions, who are the lenders who could get empaneled with the scheme once launched. and the ones who would provide loans to the clean tech SMEs. And for eligible loans, they could enter into guarantee arrangements with the facility manager. We've kept a provision for a third-party technical due diligence provider, as I mentioned earlier, to expedite the overall process for release of funds. And then we have the borrowers who are the clean tech SMEs. In order to assess the potential impact of this kind of a structure, we made certain assumptions related to a guarantee coverage of around 50%, first loss coverage of 20% within that. We assumed a certain borrower mix, given that the focus is more on the SME segment. We've considered a borrower mix within BBB, BB, B, and C rated entities. Then certain assumptions on the loan tenor, guarantee fee, guarantee tenor, etc. We've calculated the expected loss, which is a product of exposure at default, loss given default, and probability of default. Probability of default figures were taken from CRISIL's CDR study. And based on this, we analyzed that every $1 of guarantee coverage could enable private capital to an extent of $9. So an overall leverage of close to 9x. The details of the computations and the assumptions, everything is part of the report. We've also carried out discussions with some of the entities who could be the potential entities to host this structure or the fund. We've received interest from one of the entities which is backed by PSUs to host this kind of a structure. We'll carry out discussions with them to finalize the implementation pathway. On the right hand side, we have another structure which is to leverage USAID's existing DCA framework. As most of us know, USAID DCA structure is a very successful and well-established structure which has played a key role in enabling capital into underserved segments. And we also have a precedent in the form of a recent rooftop solar transaction. So our recommendation here is to structure a portfolio guarantee or a guarantee arrangement with 3 or 4 lending institutions who are active in the clean tech space, who could enter into a guarantee arrangement with USAID DCA. And these 3 to 4 lenders as a consortium could then fund the clean tech SME entities. So there's a 2-tier risk sharing framework here. One is at the consortium level where lenders share the risk of exposure to the clean tech entities, and then a major comfort from USAID DCA to the lenders. We've had discussions with USAID DCA on this. Mr. Anurag Mishra is on the panel today and would be happy to hear his views on his experiences of managing guarantees in India. We will carry out discussions with USAID as well on this and see if we can take this to implementation. So that's it from my end. Would be happy to answer any questions, or if you need any clarifications, we can definitely answer those. Thanks. Back to you, Vaibhav.
Thanks, Vijay, for explaining the input from the stakeholder consultations and the structures which we have formulated under the study. I would now like to request my fellow colleague Dhruba to convene the panel discussion. Over to you, Dhruba. Dhruba, can you hear us?
To myself, yeah, sorry, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
No.
Thank
you, Vaibhav. Good morning, and thanks, Jonathan, for laying out the context and the criticality of clean tech. Mr. Sudhendu Sinha for outlining the overarching vision, and Vijay for kind of laying out the possibilities of such a credit guarantee structure and the possible options to go ahead with it. We have with us 3 representatives from USAID, USDFC, Anurag Mishra, one of the big development financial institutions, very strongly participative in India. Ekta Mehra from KfW Development Bank, the German bilateral, again with a very strong presence in India, and possibly of the 2 large bilateral institutions that work on India. And we have Mr. Pitawala from the only dedicated clean tech in the name NBFC and financial institution of India. Maybe there are a few others, but Tata Cleantech Capital. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining this. I'll start this with a few questions, but just to summarize my understanding and then hand it over to all of you for a discussion is it's critical. It's critical that clean tech be financed. As putting it up, that clean tech faces access to finance constraints. Clean tech faces access to finance constraints between Series A and Series C, or A and B, as Vaibhav said. Now, all of this is like there is a need for new technology, and this new technology is innovation, and that innovation at a point of time is funded, bootstrapped, and then business needs to be done on debt. So business needs to be done on debt. That's exactly where the valley of death comes in for clean tech ventures. So with this context in place, and no matter what we desire from a policy perspective, no matter what we desire, but we all understand that when it comes to finance, banks across the board, with a few exceptions like TCCL, we know that money is anti-innovation, because finance wants track record, finance wants experience, finance wants proven capabilities. So yes, there is a bridge that needs to be bridged, or there is a gap that needs to be bridged, sorry. Because by definition, by financial sector governance that we have, not in India, globally across the world. So therefore, the attempt of the idea that there is a public participation required in being able to do a guarantee, and that guarantee is a sort of a shared guarantee in many ways, a 50%, a shared guarantee. But that needs to be either done through capital, which absorbs losses, or through a balance sheet offered by a development financial institution, or at the end of it, the sovereign. In such a situation, the critical need for a credit guarantee for clean tech enterprises to transcend through this, call it valley of death, call it the scaling up part of it, becomes very critical. I'll start with by getting in Anurag into it with your vast experience to the USAID DCA product and subsequently. What do you think about the potential for use of guarantees for scaling up clean tech sector? And if you could also illustrate a bit on USAID's guarantee interventions, India or otherwise. Anurag.
Thank you, Dhruva, and good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thanks, STC, for inviting me to this panel. So I'll start with laying a few points and then get into very specifics about USAID's credit guarantees. So we have a mix of interventions which really enables clean tech SMEs, or I think at this stage we're looking at like small scale entrepreneurs, not really big corporates for financing. And the role of credit guarantee in addition to the other interventions which we do. So USAID early in 2015 realized as a development partner to India for so many years, our ability to finance or fund an individual technology or an individual business model is very limited. We could go out and fund 1 or 5 or 10, but there is a number of solutions in the market, which makes it very difficult to make a choice. And also knowing that the technologies and business models are moving so fast, we should not be really kind of suggesting a specific solution that let it be a market-driven process. But to do that, we also understand there is a big need of support and needed for these kind of entrepreneurs or innovative solutions to really bring to scale or at least to the level of commercialization. And that is where USAID kind of changed the strategy and started looking at the larger ecosystem. With our partners, we established the Clean Energy Access Network, which is an independent entity, a group of entrepreneurs joining it as members, and look into the common issues these enterprises face, whether it's about policy regulations, whether it's about basic knowledge and understanding of the market, also looking at to financing models there. So looking at larger ecosystem approach was kind of helpful for us. Second, we also looked at the direct needs for entrepreneurs, knowing that there's still a gap between what entrepreneur really needs and what financial institutions can offer, and translating the requirements to each other. And that is where we establish a program to provide business incubation services to a number of clean tech entrepreneurs. And after 3 years of that program, quite successfully, we're able to support around 40 clean tech entrepreneurs, but also help them enable access around $40 million of investment, both debt and equity there. So that's second example where USAID kind of look beyond just kind of enabling a credit guarantee. Third, coming to the credit guarantee instrument, it is designed to enable investments by the private sector financial institutions. I will emphasize private sector because we can't really work with public sector financial institutions. And into sectors where they have not worked in the past, so they have a perception in terms of high risk, or they don't know how to kind of really evaluate those proposals. So even the capacity issues within those. So I think it's a question of perception and capacity we have to look at together.
Just ask you to go a bit further, Anurag, if you and bit further in saying that you do have a very successful model, and it is across sectors, clean tech, wherever there is difficulty of access to finance, and it's small scale, it's been healthcare, it's been social enterprises, a lot of it. What is it that you think that, how do you think that it could get scaled up when we are trying to propose this? One part is USAID doing it, but given the scale of ambition enumerated and explained from the policy level, what is it that can come to be able to get this institutionalized and scaled up?
Thank you, Dhruba, for your question. And I think USAID's guarantee instrument, which worked across the sectors of development, has really enabled some of the private sector financial institutions to kickstart their lending to this sector. And we saw that starting early in 2005, where we gave the first credit guarantee for clean energy projects, we found that the banks who were part of that initially used that guarantee, but over the time felt really comfortable in lending to that space and started lending to that sector without using the guarantee. I think that is the success which we are looking at this space. Second is the combination of our technical assistance attached to not just to the financial institution with whom we work, but also on the borrower side has also helped us kind of kickstart some of that lending. And we have a number of really successful examples in last 5 to 7 years where a really innovative solution company came and approached us like, we just need a very small grant support, or we just a small investment to grow our business. We saw utilizing the credit guarantee, they were really able to scale their business significantly, but in some cases also able to really exit the business. And that is again a second indicator of success of these credit guarantees. I feel guarantees role has to really enable that market, as we all have experienced that in most of the cases, the risks are mostly the perceived risk, not the real risk. And second is once you showcase that to the financial institution, it also enables other financial institutions to look into that market more actively. So I'll just stop there and happy to answer any follow-up question you have. Thank you.
Thanks, Anurag. You make great points. It is the perceived risk, and the lost data also confirms that. And the second point that you make is, after a point of time, the organizations and lenders are possibly informed enough to continue that business. That's the pathway that you're looking for. Great, and I do agree with both of them, and thank you so much for this. With this, let me turn to KFW, Ekta, given the role that KFW wants to sort of, yes, promote clean energy, clean technology, transport, all of it, is there a way KFW, one is, how important do you feel this is for enabling private sector, or let's say commercial finance lending, which is critical? And then how do you see KFW possibilities in order to kind of get this, let me put it this way, let this scaled up from, or replicated or scaled up, either ways? Ekta, please.
Thank you, Dhruva. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. As KFW, the German Development Bank, I think one of the key things we look at is scale, and scale at a public sector level. So yes, we want to mobilize private commercial finance, and it is critical because for any technology or any idea to be mainstreamed, availability of finance in a normal course of business is critical. So, however, our instruments, the development bank's instruments, are limited to working with financial institutions or government of India in this respect. And I think another factor is, yes, as a development bank, we would love to see innovation. We love to see it deployed at a small level, micro-granular level. However, as a bank, we want volumes. So we need somebody who will aggregate it, an institution with which the development bank is able to work with, to aggregate that small granularity for us to be able to support this. Now, when we have a financial institution like this, we have tried to do it several times. There are lines of credit for access to finance, for instance, with a government NBFC, IREDA. And we faced a lot of challenge there because and it in spite of the fact that it is supported by a significant amount of grant to enable the financial institution to look into new technologies, to take the risk which is involved in this new process. What we found was we set up this facility, which sounds ideal in several ways, but at the other end, the technology companies who are supposed to be using this facility are sometimes not that ready for the debt, because borrowing also entails a lot of responsibility on the side of the borrower, from having a balance sheet which is responsive. Secondly, the documentation which is required. Yes, you have the technology ready, but being able to comply with that documentation which is needed to access the debt is also a requirement. And so in this line, what we faced was there was a lot of hand holding which was involved for IREDA particularly, wherein there's an independent due diligence agency which does that for the financial institution, also helps these borrowers with the documentation bit, and helps the and this was also supported by grants for debt service reserve account and so on. So there was a massive amount of grant which was used to channelize a very small amount of debt. And when we look at the numbers, we realize how big the challenge is, and we can't have that big grant to support this big numbers. So I guess it has to be a mix of readiness in terms of other things which are needed, in terms like not just the technology awareness in the financial institutions, but also at the borrower level. At what scale, at what level of scale do you approach debt? I think that's a question which is there in front of us. When are you really ready to grow? That's a difficult question, and it's a chicken and egg story at some level, but that's where we are.
Okay, Ekta, thank you. You make very useful points, and I think I hear you. To just summarize what you say, and I have just another question for you. Yeah, very well articulated, by the way. You need a scale on the liability side upstream for KFW to come in. You need a disaggregation of that happening on the downstream, and you need companies to have the process and systems to be able to borrow. Very important point. But at the same point of time, scale. Is there a way? So my question to you is there a way that ticket size and scale, technology enabling smaller ticket sizes, reduced transaction costs? Because you made the point that large amount of TA for that much amount of disbursement, yes, surely it does not go in sync. Clean tech will be small to start with, needs to scale up. So we are talking of growth capital coming in series B, between B, C, and so on, and therefore in order for that to happen. And yes, KfW is a public sector sovereign lender, therefore you need public financial institutions. Yes, with public financial institutions, is there a way this could get scaled up to let's say a large public sector, public financial institution, then downstreams its to let's say 100 odd NBFCs or small banks across the country? Is there something that can be done? And then there is a credit guarantee mechanism that could get built in by that structure itself. Sorry, this is trying to talk of KfW because you're one of the biggest development banks globally and otherwise too operating in India. Just the question. Follow up.
Sure. Thanks, Dhruva, again. It's a very interesting question, but unfortunately, we really are staring at the same question all the time. There is no clear answers to it right now at this point. Because yes, we know of all these challenges, and we also know that yes, credit guarantee as a mechanism will be helpful, or we assume it to be helpful, but it also adds to a certain layer of documentation and for the financial institution to go through. And where public sector is concerned, again, this same challenge in terms of how do you introduce any new scheme and mainstreaming it so much that at any branch, it becomes operationalized. So it's a big challenge there. But yes, in terms of numbers, I think the way we have seen solar rooftop board. Yes, it was innovative, it was new at a certain point of time. Even now there are challenges, but to a large extent it is much more mainstreamed. I guess to reach that level of comfort, we would need to see which technologies make that step or are able to get to that comfort level before having a scheme at a larger level for that bit. I guess that's my limited.
Right. No, I get that point, and I think I think you make very pragmatic observations. Yes, there are no. Yes, it is chicken and egg. I have constrained to agree with you. However, so I may not wish to, but yes, there is chicken and egg in the entire thing. Now let me turn around to the key large innovative financial institution, private sector, Tata Cleantech Capital, Mr. Hormaz Pitawala. My starting question to you is, do you really think that availability of such a facility would enable you to expand your loans from what you are doing right now, and will it help you to scale down on the ticket size as an operation? This is more looking at your business operations and looking at from how you would avail if this were to be made available. My question is, then how does that help you? How does that work for you, and what do you achieve out of that?
Sure, Dhruva. Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. So that's a very pertinent question, and I believe we're talking about the guarantee scheme that you just referred to. So we as Tata Cleantech, we're a premier cleantech financier in the private sector, and so far we've funded more than 200 projects, and the capacity of those projects could be, probably in the range of more than 10 gigawatt. And of course, there is focus on lending to the SME space as well, and we have been slowly and gradually building our portfolio in the SME space. We've targeted sectors such as solar rooftop. We are also now looking at energy efficiency and electric mobility sectors, which are coming up in a big way. And we have done a fair amount of lending to those sectors, but obviously there have been challenges and barriers, when it comes to lending to such organization in this clean tech SME space. Primarily because there are apprehensions on, or if I may just split the apprehensions in a couple of categories. One would be the apprehensions pertaining to the promoters or the borrowers themselves, who are much smaller in size. The balance sheet size is less. There is less to rely on. So even though if we have to lend to them, and if we have to derive some comfort or take some recourse, then that really doesn't make sense, because the balance sheet itself is very small. And sometimes these entities are also funded by private equity players, but then recourse coming from them is a big challenge. And in terms of cash flows, also these entities may not have like a stable stream of cash flows, so there's nothing to fall back upon. So the due diligence in terms of the promoter strength has to be very accurate. And then of course there are other challenges, where since the quantum is so small, we would be spending a lot of time on due diligence, and if the volume is not there, then it really doesn't make sense to spend a lot of time and cost. But having said that, the guarantee scheme, if in place, that would really provide a boost, to our kind of lending to these sectors. Primarily because one is that we are basically trying to rely on certain additional aspects apart from the regular project strengths. And if there is an institution which guarantees a part of the exposure, then obviously that really helps. The first loss guarantee mechanism is very crucial in these kind of lendings. And we've generally seen in our experience that the projections that we rely upon at the start of the project, and once the project gets operational, there is a fair bit of a chance that about 10 to 20% of those projections may go wrong, and that's the gap that has to be covered by the guarantee scheme. So it would really help, it would really boost our lending parameters if such kind of a scheme is introduced. And secondly, maybe I'm thinking a little ahead, but probably the cost of the guarantee scheme also has to be of significance, and it has to make sense for both the organizations, as in the borrower and the lender, because we feel that it has to be a win-win for both. If adding the cost of guarantee really leads to an increase in the financial cost burden, then the viability of the project is challenged. So that's why somewhere we have to even get a balance in terms of the cost of guarantee. Yeah, so those would be my limited thoughts.
Right, thank you, Mr. Pitawala, thank you so much. And yeah, it was you make those user points very well. So in the interest of time, we are here. We have two DFIs, development banks, talking. Yes, the guarantees are required, and yes, it is important. There is one which is attempted to make it happen, and there are challenges as presented by KFW, which is also true. And here we have a user of the guarantee, which is a user of the guarantee will have to be a bank or a non-banking financial institutions. So therefore, over to Vaibhav in saying, and we have with us also a policymaker, Sudhendu Sinha, Mr. Sudhendu Sinha. So it's like saying there is a facilitator, there is development banks who, yes, from a perspective of access to finance and particularly on clean tech, support the need for guarantees. And there is a user who asking for it. So therefore, how do we make it happen? Over to you, Vaibhav. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhruva. We take this opportunity to thank our panelists, Anurag, Ekta, and Hormaz, for taking the time out to join the webinar. Dhruva, we have also received some questions from the participants. Maybe this one you can take. So one of the participants is asking, given there are other guarantees hosted by government and development institution, how this guarantee would be different?
Is it directed to anyone in specific, maybe, or should I take it? No. Or you are asking me to?
No, it's
No.
not directed to anyone.
Right.
You can take.
So what? Can you repeat the question?
So he's asking, given there are other guarantees hosted by government and development institution, how this guarantee or adding a new guarantee would be different?
Well, to the best of our information, only pure play guarantee institution in India is NCGTC, and NCGTC runs 3 or 4 guarantee pots in healthcare, in education, in Startup India. A guarantee would not be anywhere different. The function of a guarantee would still remain the same. It can get structured as 50%, 30%, can structured as first loss, and depending on how drawdowns can happen, nothing different. It's question of enabling a guarantee for a clean tech sector today, as the data shows, where there is a huge gap and enterprises are there and enterprises are falling into value of death. So NCGTC may be a key institution. It can do so. Subsequently, the question is, it is no way different. It is a question of the need for a guarantee for a particular sector. And the only guarantee institution in India, as RBI recognizes it, is NCGTC, and it doesn't really have a focus on the clean tech sector. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dhruva, and I hope it would have clarified. The participant is able to get a clarification to his answer. Also, to add to it, here we also to add to it, the design of the guarantee instrument is also one of a key feature which we need to take into consideration. Like adding a third-party clean tech due diligence agency could definitely help the pickup of the guarantee as such.
If I can add a point here,
Sure.
I think one of the aspects which USAID really looks at when we do the guarantees is the market creation part of it. So what we are also looking at, the guarantees will not be there forever. So you have to have private sector lenders ready and understand those sectors and those investments. And that is what also this guarantee enables. So it has to be seen also from the supply side, the overall demand for financing. And if you're not able to drive more private sector players to that, we are missing on a big opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Anurag. So there's another question which we have received. This is pointed to Ekta from KFW. So the participant is asking whether KFW or any other government agency has also considered a credit guarantee or a first loss cover on client portfolio of a fintech-enabled clean tech operation. I think this is a rather very pointed question.
So just to answer this very briefly, KFW at present stage does not offer credit guarantees. We only do debt, which is a clean debt, concessional debt, and that's the only instrument which we work with right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ekta. Thank you, Dhruva, and all the panelists for joining us, for joining the webinar. So now I'll just summarize what are the key take-home messages which we want to give through this webinar. So through this report and panel discussion, we concluded that guarantees are a critical instrument which can be used to enable finance for low carbon technologies. And until the market matures and acceptability is considered by financial institutions, the design of the guarantee is key to achieve the end objective. It should be flexible and time bound, both in terms of process of application and claim settlement. Thirdly, an expert third-party agency which understands the new technologies and business model is needed to support the lending institutions in appraisal process. This can further stimulate the take-up of the guarantee and the use of guarantee. The report, this report would be a key initiation point for development financial institutions like USAID, KFW, and government departments to look at a sector-specific credit guarantee scheme, and also provide a we also provide a stakeholder vetted design framework, which is kind of been successful in Switzerland, and we have also vetted the design with the key stakeholders to establish a credit guarantee facility here in India. With that, we have reached to the end of the webinar. Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you signing in and hope you gained interesting insights. Before we sign off, I would love to tell you that we would be sharing the webinar presentation recording and our report to all participants. Feel free to reach out to me or Vijay via email if you have any questions or want to know more. Goodbye and have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.